Today we've got a bumper video from Triumph HQ with the launch of the new 2021 update of the Street Scrambler, a new limited edition called the Sandstorm, and Triumph's new SOS crash detection app for both iPhone and Android. So in today's video we'll go over the specs of the new Street Scrambler and Sandstorm, speak to Miles Perkins at Triumph about the origins of the new models, as well as speak to the developers of the new app to find out all about it. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to see all of the latest motorcycle news right here on YouTube, then please do remember to hit subscribe. First up, here's the new Street Scrambler. A lot of the bike is still the same, and that's good news. I'm a Street Twin owner, absolutely love the kind of simple retro flavor of it. So you've still got the 900cc variant of the Bonneville Parallel Twin that puts out 65 PS or 64 horsepower. Doesn't sound like a great deal for a 900cc engine, but it's the 80 Newton meters of peak torque delivered low in the rev range at about 3,250, I think, that makes it really satisfying to ride. So I did a lot of commuting on my Street Twin around London, and it's that drive away from the line without having to rev it that really makes it a fun bike to ride. The chassis is mostly unchanged. You've still got the KYB fork and shock. You've still got the single 4-pot Brembo brake at the front, a single pot at the rear, and then you've got two riding modes of road and rain. The rain mode will of course kind of dull the throttle a bit, and traction control will kick in a bit earlier, but otherwise they're very simple electronically. That's what I mean about it being a retro flavor to ride. It's really undistracting. You can just enjoy the bike, and it does have that lovely exhaust note. I think the Street Scrambler and the Street Twin with this 900cc Bonneville Twin with its 270 crank are two of the best sounding bikes on the market at the moment with their stock exhausts. New for this model year, just like all other manufacturers, it's got to comply with Euro 5 emissions regulations, so they've had to clean up the emissions with a bit of work to the cat, a bit of work to the air intake as well. The good news is that peak power and peak torque have been maintained, so they haven't sacrificed any power in doing that. Unfortunately, there's an extra 3 kilos or so of weight, and also fuel consumption is slightly worse, I think about 5%. Personally, if I had to take worse fuel consumption or worse power, I'd probably take the fuel consumption. It's great that they've maintained the same peak power and torque figures, and for me, that would be the priority. Also, Triumph were keen to point out that even with the worst fuel consumption figures, they actually still stack up pretty well when you compare them to stuff like the Ducati Scrambler. The second change for this model year is that there have been a few styling tweaks across the bike, so I'll take you through them. There's a new design to the headlight bracket there, a new design on the heel guard finisher there as well. And then on this side of the bike, which often, you know, by a lot of manufacturers gets a bit neglected because when you see the bike, it's always from this side, but they've actually fitted an aluminium number board on that side. I think it looks really nice and adds a bit of a premium touch to it. And I think you could also stick your own vinyl letters on there and it would make a nice feature of it. It does have the Street Scrambler logo embossed in there as well, so that's a nice touch. The throttle bodies have been updated, so they look a little more modern. And then you've also got a new finish on the saddle. It feels a bit more grippy, and they say it's more kind of like adventure finish. The last big change for this model year is that there are new colors available, so you can still get the jet black, but we've got this one, urban gray. I really like this finish. Miles from Triumph will tell us a bit about the story behind this one later. And then there's a matte khaki finish with ironstone stripes across it. That's really nice as well. And if you saw the Steve McQueen edition of the 1200 Scrambler that got announced recently, you like the look of it, but perhaps the budget doesn't stretch that far. I feel like the Street Scrambler in that matte khaki gives you some of the same vibe for a few grand less. A few of the Bonnevilles have increased in price just by a couple of £100 this year, but the good news for the Street Scrambler is that it stays at 9,300 despite the expense of manufacturing that new exhaust with more precious metals. There have been a couple of bits of spec removed, so you don't get the knee pads as standard, and you don't get the rack that replaces the pillion seat as standard. Both of those are now offered as accessories, but ultimately I think that's good news for the price remaining the same, and you can spec those if you want. Dealers are taking deposits now, and bikes are available from July. The other update we've got for this year is this new Sandstorm edition, which I think you'll agree looks particularly good with this tricolour paint job on the tank. It's a special edition. There's 775 available, and you get a certificate of authenticity to show that it's a proper special edition, like you just haven't done a custom paint job on a standard one. The colour used on the top of the tank is called Sandstorm. You've got matte storm grey as the middle stripe, and then ironstone for the bottom part, and the storm grey is also used on the mudguard. Not only do you get the paint job, but there's a few accessories as standard to give it more of that desert sled feel. So you've got the high-level mudguard at the front, A proper sump guard on it as well, so the standard bike comes with a plastic one, but this one looks a bit more sturdy. You get a tail tidy as well to neaten up that back end. There's a headlight grille to protect the lens, I guess, but mostly that's aesthetic. And then the knee pads that aren't standard on the base bike now come as standard on this edition. Like the Street Scrambler, they're taking deposits now. This one will be available from May, and it's 9,900, so 600 quid on top of the standard bike. Next up, I spoke to Miles, head of brand management at Triumph, to find out more about the Sandstorm. I guess it's inspired by desert racing and all that kind of thing. Can you tell us a bit about the history of...
Yeah, bang on. It's inspired by the 1960s desert racers that those early Triumph Scramblers were involved with. So in the end of the 50s into early 60s, both in Europe and in the US, the Bonneville T120 and the TR6s of the day were pretty much the lightweight, power, agility combination that you wanted. And in America, they took the kind of the off-road riding scene a little bit to a different place. Right. So the riders of the day, such as Bud Ekins, and of course his movie star mate, Steve McQueen, would take these bikes, take them into the desert for fun, but also they were used to race in hare and hounds and on the Baja Peninsula. Some really famous places that if you go back now, they're really sort of evocative, so Barstow and Lake Mirage and places like that. And that's the American side of it, but then of course in Europe, going back even earlier than that, you had the International 6-Day Trial and competition racing in off-road or all-road kind of circumstances. And of course the same Triumph TR6 and T120s were being used there. Now those bikes became, I think, fair to say, the first competition scramblers. Right. So the Triumph T120 TT, which is a really fantastic classic bike if you can find one of those, or that'd be a hell of a barn find. They made those for a couple of seasons, an over-the-counter racer, specifically set up for off-roading, and competition bikes like the TR6C and A, and those, I think you could trace all the scramblers today are from lots of different companies, all the way back to that era. And for Triumph, I think they set the scene in terms of the looks, the high pipe. Those were the original desert sleds, you know, the bench seats, and that kind of scrambler silhouette. And this bike here, the Sandstorm, which is a limited edition, that's there really reflecting that kind of history, not least of which because, of course, it's got that look, it's got that timeless scrambler look. Previously, you know, we've had the TFCs, and those are a really premium price point. We have the Bond down at 250 units, so super exclusive, and also 18.5 grand. These are way more accessible. The Gold Line Street Twin as well, I think that's a really accessible price point. Even the McQueen Scrambler that was announced last week, £1,000 more than the XE. So especially if you finance it, which a lot of buyers do, I guess, it's not a huge difference, certainly month on month. So is that a conscious decision to kind of offer something a bit more accessible but still limited and exclusive? Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a sort of a balanced equation that when you're bringing up in a new model and it's an update, you know, it's not completely new, it's not totally new in terms of specifications, that it's a great opportunity to highlight the new bike and also reflect the history and also show the specifications, particularly with the accessories that are available. So an edition like this at the time that we're launching a new Street Scrambler, and similarly with the Speed Twin, with the Gold Line edition, the Street Twin and the Gold Line edition, you're quite right. They provide a more accessible, but nonetheless quite unique and exclusive dynamic to it, but not so wildly different that they're on a pinnacle above what should also be a very appealing standard specification bike. Yeah. So by only being £600 more, and actually you can see some of that, the value of that on plain sight with the high front mudguard and the tail tidy and the sump and the other things that are on there, plus the paint scheme, plus the certificate, you know, personalised with a VIN. I think that makes it a very appealing package, and it does the double job of providing an opportunity for someone who would want a Street Scrambler, but something a little bit more exclusive, who likes that story, who likes that flavour. But also when we're launching a new bike, it provides a great opportunity for people to see the range. Yeah. You know, and we've updated almost all the Bonnevilles now. I think the special editions that we've brought in at the same time, they've certainly come over very well. What we hear from our dealers and the deposits that have gone down for the ones we've already launched seems to show that we're on the right track.
So we've still got the jet black for the street Scrambler, but there are a couple of new finishes as well. So matte khaki with a couple of stripes over it, which looks great. But my favourite, I think, urban grey. This is a new colour. Can you tell us where it came from?
So of course all our design and development is done, within Triumph here, just around the corner at the factory. And the urban grey, I think, is what inspired this. Of course, is that kind of more contemporary urban flavour that the street Scrambler's got versus, of course, the 1200, which is a bit more sort of full-on off-road, dual purpose. Interestingly, we used this colour on a Scrambler 1200 that we had at the NEC. The last time we had the NEC, but Matt Reed, who's the guy who runs our adventure centre, is a cracking off-roader and thoroughly lovely chap. We developed with the UK a custom scheme for that bike, just for that show, and people loved it. And we had a lot of people coming up saying, I would like that, can we have that? So the two things came together with paint planning and customer sort of feedback.
I think both of them look brilliant. I'd be happy with either. In the final part of this video, I spoke to both Miles and Andrew Richardson from RealSafe, the company who partnered with Triumph to develop the SOS app. We started with a quick overview of what it does.
Triumph SOS is a collaboration between RealSafe Technologies, who have been actually developing and have had products in this world for a long time, many years. And what we're excited to have achieved with them is a new flavour of that, which is, I think, actually a real innovation in terms of a piece of safety equipment tied to an app on your phone that, if you're unlucky enough to have an accident or a collision or an incident, will automatically send that information directly to the emergency services. It's a monthly service cost, free for the first 3 months for Triumph customers, and it does an amazingly advanced technical job, but in a way that you wouldn't know it. It knows what's going on from your phone.
If you're going out on a ride, can you walk us through the steps of sort of how you'd enable it?
And you know what's unique to Triumph SOS is that we're bringing years and years of development R&D, and I ride all the time in groups, and there's a number of different options that you can do depending on what you're going out to ride for. So the basic one, which we developed, we support the blood riders a lot, and they kept saying to us, well, we don't really want to record hospital to hospital. We just want to go turn on, turn off. So what's unique with this is you've got that ability to just turn on accident detection and just let it run no matter where you're going to go, whether that's cross country, cross territory, or you might actually be out thinking, I want to record that journey because I want to then look at it later on and I want to share it.
Sure.
So you can run accident detection while you're doing that as well. And then the other option, which is unique to Triumph SOS, is group ride. And we're always out in groups and we always lose somebody. If someone doesn't know the route they're on, you probably know yourself, you pull over, what do we do? Is someone going to go and look for them? Well, this has all of you on the map at the same time.
Amazing.
So it brings that capability with the protection, but also the flexibility to use those systems in how you want to do it, depending on your ride. So that's what I'm excited to bring to this collaboration. Is this hasn't been done before in one system.
Yeah. Okay. And about the crash detection, could you tell us sort of technically how that happens?
So accelerometers, have been around for a long time. We started this journey really when smartphones first came out because we understood what the need was from the air ambulance teams and paramedics, but it just wasn't there. So when we started looking at what we could detect, you've got your gyroscope, you've got your magnetometer, all those things that you can use. We started to experiment with that and working directly with emergency services to say, this is what we can do. We know you've had an impact. Really, accelerometers will tell you what's happening. It's what happens after that and all of the processes that we do after that to actually say, well, what's happening now after that accident? And that's what we spent years and years developing. So impact is one thing, but rather than just fire it straight to emergency services, we need to be confident that we've validated that you have actually had that accident.
So how do you go through testing that? Is it looking at real world data, or is it like a rig or something like that?
So we've been doing this for a long time. So a lot of phones were broken because in the early stage, you've got to get that sweet spot between actually a low speed impact it may trigger, but actually the post-impact systems are monitoring what's going on, so that's fine. But what we're looking for is those bigger impacts where chances are you could be knocked unconscious. But over the years, we've built things like auto pause, so that when you stop for fuel, if you drop your phone, it won't go off. So we've done a lot of engineering around that to make sure that actually, we've got a sweet spot now where it goes off depending on the crash that you're in or accident you're in. You could be doing 30, you might be hit by 70. It's all of that knowledge and that learning that's gone into refining the system.
So the auto pause, that works based on your GPS, I guess. If it detects that you stop, then it stops running.
Yeah, and that's quite important because I'm kind of giving you the questions, but it's one of the key things that people have always said to me. Well, I bet it records for speed, I bet you tell the police. Well, we don't communicate with the police, it's purely the ambulance. And at the end of the day, we don't need to do that. We look at what the GPS is telling us, because that's the method of being able to say, are we monitoring or we're not monitoring? Because I've got to be confident that when you pull over for fuel and you drop your phone, it's not going to send an alert. And even if it did trigger, it then got the process of cancelling it from the alert that's on the screen. Or if you got up and moved around, it knows you're moving around as well. So all of it is automated until the point where actually, do I need to stop it? Or if I'm unconscious, it's just going to do its job.
So basically, if you've had a collision but you're okay, you can stop it.
Right.
You can cancel it, or it'll be telling you, I'm about to send your information.
Yeah, and it's very much depending on. I mean, every impact, every accident is different, and what we've done over the years is try to look at all the edge cases around that. So I was, at the weekend, I was over the moors in North Yorkshire. I'm lucky enough to live near there, and I'm going over this, and and it's bouncing around, and that's fine because it's not going to trigger because it knows I'm moving. It's if I fall off and cuddle one of the sheep that are normally there waiting for me, then and I'm unresponsive. That's when it's going to do what it needs to do. But if I'm laid there and it's activated and it's notifications to me and I can still go, I'm okay. I might want to let it go because I might want emergency services to ring me anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's that flexibility and the automatic elements of it as well.
As I understand it, it notifies the emergency services, but not other contacts in your phone. So I guess could you explain that sort of decision?
I mean, early on, we built this in consultation in a partnership with the ambulance teams, and that was really important because we'd had the idea before smartphones came out. How do you find somebody who's been thrown from a motorcycle, and what do the emergency services want? So it was that collaboration that we did in the early days, and they said, we don't want 20 people blocking up 999 because they're worried about somebody who could be 300 miles away. They want something that's absolutely precise, gives all the data that we provide quickly and efficiently, and they will act on that and they will go. But it's the regulation and the compliance we've had to go through that means we're a trusted service, because we're the only company that's allowed to send that data into the emergency services here in the UK.
I get that. I mean, fundamentally, those are the two key differences with this service. It's not about contacts that you've nominated, sends it directly, and also it's your phone, which you'll have with you, rather than your motorcycle, and of course you may be separated. So it's about you and your bike.
So like the BMW system, isn't it, where it's a button that you hit on the bars? Is that what you mean, that kind of thing?
One of the things that we learned early on, and actually I think that brand and others in the projects that have been going on in Europe have found that in 90% of the cases, the rider's separated from the motorcycle. We always knew from when we first started doing this, the big problem was, where's the rider? Now, if you're in a field somewhere, can you physically crawl back to the bike? It might be in a dangerous position. There's all of those factors that have now come to the market. But we went with the original idea of, if it's on you, the paramedics don't care where your bike is. They want to find you. The helicopter needs to land as close to you as possible. And if they've got the exact location, before dispatch takes place, they can plan that. And that's what I found quite exciting by working with emergency services, is what do they want and how quickly do they want it.
And so I think you mentioned that direct link to the emergency services. There are other apps that do kind of crash detection, but that's one of your USPs, is it?
Yeah, we're regulated, so we're government approved. That's taken, that takes a lot of time to do that, and every year that we're accredited as well. So we're permitted to plug straight into ambulance. We don't go to police, fire, etc. Whereas a lot of cars will trigger and go straight to the police. We're unique in the fact that they know that you're probably going to need help if you can't call for help. So it's straight into the ambulance service. So the system was approved to be able to do that, and we were accredited to be able to do that because they understood the use case, if you like. I've fallen off. Nobody knows where I am.
And of course, the emergency services that are going to come to you need to be where you are. So of course, as you know, this is UK, Northern Ireland, North America, South America, North America and Canada, but across Europe. So if you're in the UK and you're doing a tour across Europe, you want the emergency services that are in your area in Italy.
Sure.
You know, and that direct connection is where, I know it sounds very marketing, but seconds do save lives, and that's, that's part of the key.
That makes a difference. If you have a system that tells 20 of your friends, but you're somewhere in Europe. It was one of the things we always were asked, like, could this one day just, I set it off here, I'll turn it on, and I'm in Spain. Well, up until now, we couldn't do that, whereas now with Triumph SOS, that first capability of running it all the way through and having that peace of mind is now part of this product, which I'm excited to obviously be part of.
One of the questions I had as well is like around battery life. Some of those things can be a bit intensive. How long do you expect to be able to kind of run the app in the background?
So we've and I keep talking about engineering because you can build a lot in the studio until you get out there and the physics of it and actually road testing it. And I came down, to give you an example, I put it on this morning at 5:30 at freezing conditions, and I'd got 100 odd miles and it was still on 100%, my phone. Now, a lot of battery is all about what you have running else, like so you could be social media, polling, emails, etc. So we've worked a lot around the battery management, only using the GPS if we need to. And it's become very, very efficient. And certainly when you're using all of the elements together, the route riding, accident detection, route recording, we're finding that that's incredibly efficient. But I got down here today and it was still on in the 90s.
Got it. Yeah.
And that takes a lot of engineering as well.
So you don't have to be a Triumph owner, to...
No, it's, it is unique to bikes. So, you know, it's for motorcyclists. But we'd be absolutely overjoyed with anyone going and downloading the app. It's available on the OS for Apple and Android sites. And you basically set up a monthly rolling subscription, so you're not tied to a contract. You can pause it, you can try it, and you can come back to it later. But if you're a Triumph customer, you get 3 months free trial.
With a VIN or something?
You just put your VIN in, any Hinkley VIN from 1990 onwards.
What if you got 2 Triumphs? Can I get 2? 2 VINs in
it depends if you've got 2 phones.
You need to have a conversation.
Yeah, thanks very much. Super interesting. I can't wait to try it out.
Excellent. Well, thanks. But
I can't wait to download it.
No, we don't want you trying it.
Don't throw yourself off the bike, please. Not on our part.
A big thanks to Triumph for giving me the chance to find out about the new bikes and the app firsthand at their headquarters in the UK. Personally, I really like the new finishing items and the paint jobs for the new model year on both the standard bikes and the Sandstorm. But as always, I'd love to know what you think of them in the comments below. And would you go for the standard bike, or is the Sandstorm worth the extra 600 quid? Let me know your pick down below. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.